Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Today on the show, in Detroit, business is politics, and politics means growth.
City Council recently streamlined business licensing. Will it drive Detroit's economic engine?
Plus, director Malcolm D. Lee's hit film, The Best Man, became a cultural favorite, birthing sequels and a Peacock TV series.
Now, Lee extends the drama into his new novel, The Best Man, Unfinished Business, and he's here to tell us what's next for the beloved characters.
Also, the Global Citizen Summit brought innovators like Wyclef Jean and Mark Cuban to Detroit.
It also drew renowned Ethiopian chef Marcus Samuelson. He discussed how food bridges cultural divides. We'll listen to that conversation later.
But first, during the summer, gun violence often becomes more common. That's particularly true during the 4th of July weekend. Around the country, a combination of things, including more free time for kids, more drinking, and rising temperatures, along with an abundance of guns, means some get seriously hurt. That's what happened during this past July 4th weekend in Detroit. 3 teenagers were in critical condition after a shooting around 3 a.m. A 2-year-old boy was injured by a stray bullet while watching fireworks the same weekend. Detroit and its police force now want tougher penalties for the parents of teens who violate curfew. How effective can that be in stopping crime? What else is the city doing to stop violence at the root? And why does crime spike in the summer? To speak about this, we have Detroit Police Chief Todd Bettison here with us. Chief Bettison, thanks for joining us on the Metro.
Good morning, Robin. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining us. I want to talk about 2 weekends ago. There was a lot of gun violence. And as we noted, gun violence is typically more common during the July 4th weekend across America. Chief Bettison, were you surprised by the gun violence that happened?
No, definitely was not. We prepare, and we had extra officers out working. And so we see it spike during summer, but particularly during the 4th of July weekend. And so that's one of the things that we definitely prepare for. But what was different this year compared to last year, it was just more young people that were either perpetrators or victims of the violence. So we hadn't seen that before, just the surge in the teen violence.
My mom used to say idle time is the devil's plaything. So can we talk about that along with rising temperatures and what you think are some of the other causes? I mean, why do you think gun violence rises during the July 4th weekend and among young people as you're seeing right now?
When you think about the 4th of July weekend, especially, in Michigan and some of the other Midwestern states north, folks have been cooped up. It's really kind of like the beginning of summer, and it's celebratory. So everybody, as the young folks say, are outside. And oftentimes there are celebrations, there are a lot of alcohol involved, and just the prevalence and availability of guns and not responsible parents and adults that leave guns unattended. And when you have young persons and even just people in general who are intoxicated and not responsible, and they get a hold of a weapon, and with everybody coming together, verbal disputes, altercations, and it ultimately now results to somebody deciding to settle the dispute with a firearm.
Chief Bettison, you're talking about a lot of dangerous ingredients, and I want to talk about the response that the city is taking to the shootings. But first, I'd like for us to listen to Mayor Duggan speaking at a press conference last week about the shootings.
If you look at what's happened, there are two problems we're seeing this year that we did not see as much last year. Number one, the problems are running later in the evenings. Now we're seeing them at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And second, it is far more young people. We've had a dramatic drop-off in shootings of people 25 and up. But what we have seen, unfortunately, way too many young people.
Okay, Chief Bettison, so we've discussed some of the reasons why you think young people are more involved right now in this kind of violence. Now, let's talk about the response to these shootings. First, you're extending the mobile field force from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. What does the mobile force do, and why does it matter to extend their time in the field?
Absolutely. The mobile field force are trained officers that are out, and I deploy, I don't really talk about the numbers, but really 100 plus of those members to go throughout the city. And the large illegal block parties where people just gather in the streets, take over the streets, open intoxicants in a party atmosphere, playing loud music, and it can pop up anywhere. And we've seen 300, 400, 500 people in the past, and we implemented that last year. They actually go in and bust those parties up and move folks along, and if necessary, will make arrests, issue tickets, and we encourage the public to call us before it gets to the 300-400 number. So when you see them gathering, we made that a priority last year. Former Chief White did, and it was very effective. After the 4th of July weekend, we saw the level of shootings in the cities really decrease. And we actually ended the year with record low non-fatal shootings and homicide numbers. And we're actually trending even lower this time compared to last year. But as a response, we've seen the party goers start later, especially the ones that like to engage in the donuts with their cars. It's called drifting, and where they'll take over an intersection, and you can have 400 or 500 people watching the cars do donuts in the middle of the street. And we had an incident during the 4th of July weekend over in the 7 Mile Myers area. And so it took us a minute to actually get enough officers to go in and bust that up. But that had started after 3 o'clock, and our mobile field force had gotten off duty. So as a result, Mayor Duggan has authorized overtime, and we're adjusting and pivoting now so that our mobile field force and our adequate officers will be there to go to 5 a.m. in the morning, and if need be, longer than that. So Mayor Duggan opened up the checkbook, and he's given me the resources that I need to ensure that we're keeping the city of Detroit safe.
Well, Chief Bettison, I know that one of your concerns is the well-being and mental health of your officers, and I'm wondering if this is going to present some extra stressors to be deploying these extra officers, and how concerned you are about that, or what you're doing to try and mitigate that, because part of, I know, your vision with community policing is making sure that none of your officers are too overburdened. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. We're always concerned, and we really stress mental health and well-being for our members. We have a peer support unit as well, and so we do a lot of things within the department to ensure that our members are really taking care of themselves. And so they do get vacations, and we do authorize that. And we'll stagger shifts. We'll change the actual start time and end time. And we offer overtime department-wide so that they get an opportunity to pick various assignments that they want to work also. But the mayor was concerned about that as well. And so we're closely monitoring to ensure that our members don't experience burnout.
Chief Bettison, the mayor also noted that there's a curfew on the books in the city for teens that are 15, and that's 10 p.m. And for 17-year-olds, it's 11 p.m. Now, you're asking the city council to increase the curfew fines parents face from $75 to $200 for the first offense, and from $100 to $500 for the second offense. Why?
When the curfew ordinance was first enacted back in the 1980s by the late Mayor Coleman A. Young, it was on the books for $75. And so it was an issue in the 80s, and the mayor saw fit to establish a penalty, establish a curfew, and also establish where parents could be held accountable with the parental responsibility ticket as well. And so that fee has not increased in over 30 years. And so if we're going to say that this is a priority and that we're going to hold our parents accountable, then after over 30 years, not to raise the fee to get the attention so that it stings, would be not responsible. So we're asking that $75 fee be increased to $250, and for a subsequent offense to $500. And we're not targeting kids. We're targeting parents. And after those parental responsibility tickets are issued, they have to go before a judge, and it's other things that the court can impose also, where it comes to, maybe sending them to a parental boot camp, because I can say parents be responsible, but we have to also wrap our arms around the parents if they don't even know what responsibility means. And so we're very, very conscious of that as well.
Do you know, Chief Bettison, if these kinds of fines, though, actually help to deter violence and this kind of behavior?
Everybody's talking about it. And so since we've really stepped up curfew enforcement as of a couple weeks ago and really came out, I have seen already a decrease in the level of young people being out, and also either being victims or perpetrators of violence. And so I'm not saying that this is a silver bullet, but it definitely can't hurt. And it's going to take a whole lot more. It's an and approach, multifaceted, where it comes to also having something for teens to do. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we've done is we started a community violence intervention basketball league, where we have young folks that have been identified really as the ones that really drive violence or at risk to be involved in a shooting, either the victim or a perpetrator. And so we have them in a basketball league now. Another thing that the city has done, and I would suggest that we do it earlier next year, our Grow Detroit Young Talent. On July 8th, we kicked off Grow Detroit Young Talent, where we have over 8,000 young people in the city of Detroit who have summer jobs. Maybe we need to look at starting that a little bit sooner so that it's not a gap between...
Chief Bettison, forgive me for jumping in. I hear you. What you're saying is that the fines are just one tool in the toolbox, and it is very much also about something we've discussed, which is addressing that idle time. I do want to just touch on one more thing, though, about those fines, and that is that we know a lot of Detroit residents are living in poverty. And so I'm wondering if you worry about the financial burden that those fines could put on parents who may already be struggling financially.
They're going to have a much greater financial burden if their teen is either shot or the perpetrator of violence. And so this is done in a loving fashion to be able to save our young folks and also their most precious asset, which is their teen. I don't feel that the fines are overburdensome. I know that with the level of violence that we are experiencing with our young people, that's totally unacceptable. And it's also deterrent factors when they go before a judge. City council, our judges, they're not trying to come from a punitive aspect to just take money out of parents' pockets, but we have to do something to get their attention, to force them to be accountable for their teens.
This is the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. We're talking about gun violence in Detroit, which spiked 2 weekends ago. Our guest is Detroit Police Chief Todd Bettison. Chief Bettison, I want to discuss a different program that you and many mayoral candidates are in favor of, and that's community violence intervention. We know that one shooting can result in retaliatory shootings, that gun violence is a contagion, in other words. And we know these programs, community violence intervention programs, acknowledge gun violence as a public health issue. What role do community violence intervention programs play in stopping this kind of contagion?
I'm so glad that you raised that. I have seen it work, and I know that it works. It actually identifies through credible messengers, and a credible messenger is someone that the young people or the drivers of violence can hear a message from. And so they're able to inspire, they're able to deter, they're able to mediate disputes, and so that it doesn't go on and on and on. And because after that first bullet is fired and someone is hit and 911 is called, my detectives respond, we lock folks up, but it doesn't stop necessarily somebody else from retaliating. That's where the community violence intervention folks step in and have done a wonderful job. And I actually contribute our historic crime reductions to community violence intervention as a variable, as a factor.
I mean, it's been successful in other cities we know nationwide, and it really has seemed to affect major change here in Detroit. And it's our understanding on the Metro that Detroit City Council members put some money in their districts toward these community violence intervention programs, but the state hasn't come up with funding for it, and we know federal funding has dried up is drying up. What kind of position does this put community violence intervention work in? Are you concerned about that?
Definitely concerned about it. You know, I have right now a 21% reduction in homicides. I have a 32% reduction in non-fatal shootings in some of my CVI zones where the groups work, and we've measured this. They have a 3 to 4 square mile area, and it was some of the most violent areas in the city. I've seen a 70% reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings in their areas. So I know it works. So the thought of it not being properly funded to be able to sustain it is problematic for me. And so I'm definitely urging our state senators in Michigan to work with the House. The House has a bill 4260 and it's 4261 that would allocate about $18 million to the city of Detroit the way it currently stands year after year. And so it's sustainable. You can plan, and that's what the city of Detroit needs.
Before I let you go, give us an example, if you could, of the way that community violence intervention programs work. I'm thinking about one of those community members who essentially acts as a neighborhood social worker. Can you paint a picture for us in the last minute we have what that really looks like on the ground?
Absolutely. It just occurred recently. They monitor social media as well. They say that they monitor for disrespect. And oftentimes, all these senseless shootings are about somebody feeling disrespected. Young folks go on social media, they'll make threats, and then everybody's watching and they feel that they have to do something. They're boxed in. I just had one of my community violence intervention groups go on social media and mediate a social media beef before it resulted in 2 gangs coming to actually trading gunfire. And so they mediated it, and that's something that I no longer have to deal with.
Detroit Police Chief Todd Bettison, thank you so much for joining us today on the Metro.
Thank you.
Metro on WDET. 2 years ago, here at WDET, we launched our annual listener survey, and your responses informed some key programming changes here at Detroit Public Radio. We added several new programs, including what you're listening to right now, the Metro. Your survey responses inform our programming directly. So let us know how we're doing. Go to wdet.org/survey. It'll only take 10 minutes. Up next, last week, Detroit City Council made it easier to operate a business and get a license. We'll talk about why and what that means for Detroit's economy. This is the Metro on WDET. Stay with us.